All right. Pause that. Okay, let me get this over here. Got it. So I can see my live stream comments. Okay, so I know this is very impromptu. I was just going to record it and then do a premiere, but I really like interacting with you guys on the live chat. So, hi Celine, I am going to do it this way today. Hey Julia, I'm glad you could join. I figured, well, the middle of the day, you know, maybe there's naps or something and the kids are in bed. Hey Amanda. And hey Sarah. So I figured I would just do it right now. Tonight we have family pictures, which is why I'm dressed nice in my, you know, Sunday morning clothes, because we are getting a big group family picture for my husband's side of the family for his mom for her birthday, which was back in March or something. But it's finally good enough weather here in Illinois. It's still going to be a little bit chilly, but oh, thanks, Amanda. It's going to be a little bit chilly, so we are, it'll be okay though. It'll be in the 60s, so we'll have some babies and stuff. So yes, I wanted to do, yes, lemonade. This is day 8 of the master cleanse for me. And so I think I was thinking a lot about this topic just because it's taken so much self-control on my part not to eat any food for the last 8 days. Last Sunday afternoon/evening was the last time I ate food. So what we've been doing is, you can research it. I'm not a doctor. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. I'm not recommending you even do it because it is very, very intense. But basically, my friend Nicole and I and Amanda all went on an adventure for the last week. So because of some health problems and stuff, we all kind of wanted to reset our system. So for over a week, we have denied ourselves food and we've been doing these lemonades, which is just basically freshly squeezed organic lemon juice, maple syrup, pure maple syrup. It can't be like table syrup, you know, it has to be actual maple syrup, and then cayenne pepper and water. And I'm putting some turmeric in mine to help with pain because I dealt with a lot of headaches. I went off of coffee cold turkey, which was really, really difficult. And so I dealt with 4 days of horrible headaches. Day 5, I was going to quit, but I woke up and felt really good. So I kept on with it. Day 6 was horrible. And then day 7 yesterday was really good. Day 8 so far has been really great. So I'm like, I'm going to power through and make it the 10 days because I really thought I was only going to make it halfway, but here we are. So, hey, Ellen. Yeah, it's usually Mondays are kind of crazy. So I'm glad that I could take the time to just kind of come over here and we could have a chat, because I know I've been doing, this is bothering me. I know I've been doing a lot of premieres and things lately. So I thought it would be good to have just a live one again. So I hope you're all doing great. Hope you all had a great Sunday. Let's get into the topic. So this area of self-control is a really important one for my husband and I. It's kind of one that we've always stressed with our kids. It is one that we have always tried to instill in them, the art of self-control, because if you read the Bible, you see that our flesh is very weak. And I found that out this last week. We have to train our flesh and bring it under subjection as Christians so that we walk in the Spirit. Training takes work and discipline. And I am by no means the expert in this area because I'm still doing things trying to teach myself self-control, hence this last week, and different other areas in my life where it comes to setting goals for myself, setting guidelines for myself. So I'm not the expert in this area. I still mess up. I do things I shouldn't. I give into the flesh. I'm definitely a work in progress, and I will be until I see Christ. You know, none of us can attain perfection. Christ was the only source of perfection, and we won't be like him until we see him. So, but as moms, we exhibit behavior to our children that they pick up, and our actions are the biggest determination for the lessons that they learned. We can, tell them things all we want, but as moms, our actions are what they learn. I often see my weaknesses displayed in my kids. I'm like, oh, there's my genetics. Yep, there they go. And I often see my husband's genetics displayed through my children. So this is an area that I try to work on. So my kids will see me working on it, and they will also want to work on the self-control in their life as well. So yeah, Celine, I agree. And, I'm going to talk about weight a little bit later on. And it has my thoughts on weight, I think, might be different than hers, because I am a person who has always struggled with my weight. And if I had no self-control in this area, I would be obese. I would be 300, 400 pounds. And so I do empathize, though, with the women who it comes very hard for them. For one, I do have half a thyroid, and so I am working on that. So having half a thyroid, having thyroid issues is a legitimate reason for struggling with your weight. You're going to, your metabolism is going to be a lot lower than other women who have a fully functioning thyroid. So, our thyroid plays into all these things in our body. And so I try to be really careful. I don't want to body shame women. Obviously, I am a big proponent in self-control and getting your body in subjection. I am for educating people. I think fasting is probably the missing link to a lot of health problems and a lot of health benefits that a lot of women are missing out on. And we'll kind of go over fasting a little bit. I am by no means the expert in this either, but I have, when I'm not nursing or pregnant, I have taken advantage of fasts, whether that's daily fasts, 2-day fasts. The longest I had gone before this one was 2 full days, I believe. So, but I've been researching a lot and listening to a lot of videos from different doctors on YouTube about fasting, and just there are so many health benefits. I know, though, for moms that are constantly having children and nursing children, it is really tough. You can't do that. So for a time as moms, we have to sacrifice our bodies, whether that is having a little bit of extra weight. We have to do that sacrifice for our children. And I've had 8 children and 10 pregnancies. So I see that. Some other women, like the one that Celine mentioned, I think she only had 4 children maybe, and she had them a long time ago. She only had 4 children. So when you're having children every 2 years and you're nursing them for upwards of a year, your body composition is going to be different than that of your girly self, So those are some things to take into consideration. I kind of followed a rabbit trail there. So I'll get back to that when I get to that subject. But I wanted to talk about some areas we can have self-control in as women, but then also different areas that different ways we can teach our children to have self-control as well. So let's talk number 1 about one of the most important relationships in our life, and that is marriage. So how can we exhibit self-control when it comes to this part of our life? Like when our feelings are hurt. Now, I think through this entire episode, I think it all comes down to a lot of it is controlling the littlest member of our body, which the Bible talks about, but is a huge fire and hard to contain, and that is our tongue. I think a lot of it comes down to controlling our tongue. As someone who is more vocal, more bold about how I feel about things, and I'm just kind of a no-nonsense type personality, this has been an area that I've really had to work hard on. Not to say that everyone doesn't have to work on this time to time. Some of my best friends are introverts, and they actually don't even talk a lot, excess, they're not really talkative, but they still have to work on this area, because we're all going to get our feelings hurt. We're all going to want to lash out. We're all going to get angry. So when it comes to our feelings of being hurt in marriage, I've not always been the best at this, but I am learning that if something is said, to just not lash out automatically, to just be quiet. and think about it. And maybe think, I always think to myself, is there an element of truth in this critique, whether it's from my husband, whether it's from a listener, whether it's from a child, whether it's from someone at church? Is there an element of truth to this critique of me? And if there is, then I try to work on that. If there is not, then, maybe it is hurtful. Maybe you can tell your husband that was really hurtful. I've often done that. You really hurt my feelings. That was really hurtful. I wish you wouldn't have said that. It's fine to tell your husband that, or someone else if they hurt your feelings. So, sorry if I don't keep up with the chat, but I know for me, when my feelings are hurt, I will take just a minute, not lash out right away. And then maybe a little bit later, when I'm more calm, talk to him about it, tell him why exactly I was hurt, etc. So how about self-control, though, when it comes to other interactions with the opposite sex? Because you're not going to be able to avoid having to talk to men at times. I mean, I'm a pastor's wife. Our church is full of men, and there's nothing wrong with carrying on conversations with men. As far as me, I do have some guidelines in my life so that it won't progress. Nothing could ever progress, I guess. One of the biggest ones is that I'm just never alone with another man in the same building ever. So, if I'm at church, like right now I'm at church, there is a staff member here, but there is also my husband. So my husband is here as well. So anytime that I am, I know that I'm coming to the church, I make sure that my husband's here. The same thing with him. He is never alone with a woman. He's never been alone with a woman in a building. If he has counseling to do with a woman, I do the counseling with him. He's not here, and then another lady in the church is here by herself. It's just something that we've implemented in our life since day one of being married, and it's worked really well because 21 years, and there's never been even a temptation for us to, even commit adultery or even go down that path. So there's just certain guidelines that you put in your life from the beginning of your marriage so that is never an option. It's never going to be an option. He has never been alone, even in a car with a woman. If he has ever had to pick up someone from another lady from the church, he brings kids, a couple kids with, I'll go with, which is just one thing that we have in our life that's the biggest one. Also, just be careful with, I never message, if someone is messaging me through Messenger. Some people have stricter guidelines when it comes to this. They say they won't message anyone of the opposite gender. My policy is, my husband has different women messaging him and emailing him all the time. So it's, it's hard not to say no woman can ever email you or whatever, because he's in that position where people are going to be. My thing is, I would never text or message anyone something that I would not want the whole world seeing. So basically, pretty much with the exception of my closest friends, I am like that, actually. I have some trust issues when it comes to different things, but I don't ever message anyone anything that I wouldn't want the entire world seeing, or I would have a problem with other people seeing. So that's my, philosophy when it comes to that. So, how about the way that we speak to our husband when we are irritated, impatient, etc.? Now, this is one thing I have noticed with me myself. I actually, when I am not feeling good and I'm hungry, I do better in this area because I know how I feel. And so I have to force myself to be nice. I know, okay, Cassandra, you're really grouchy right now. You have to be nice. So I take more time with my responses. I don't know. I feel like when I let my guard down is when I have the tendency to snap or to be irritable. And, that just shows a lack of self-control. So I'm not saying that you have to walk on pins and needles all the time. Obviously, you're allowed to be open and honest with your husband and whatever. But I do think that we as women, for some reason, I don't understand what it is, but women have a tendency to treat their husbands really bad, really poorly. And that's a shame. They are one with us, they are our partner for life. And so they should be the ones that we treat with the most kindness and the most respect and the most love. And I really feel like this is missing in so many relationships. In fact, sometimes on my Facebook, I have this TikTok app, but I don't go on there barely ever, unless I'm searching for something, because like a recipe or something that someone's told me about. I don't go on there very often because it's just, I don't like it. But there are Facebook Reels. So sometimes I'll be going through those, waiting in the car for something. And there's some that are really popular where it's basically just the husband and the wife making like snide jokes at each other. I don't like that. It's not respectful. I don't like seeing the wife treat the husband with such disdain, and even vice versa. The husband will treat the wife with disdain. And we wonder why more and more people are running from marriage. More and more kids growing up don't want that for their life because they have horrible examples. So let's set a good example in that to our children, how marriage is great and your husband's great, and treat him with respect and honor. And hopefully he will treat you the same way too. I am an advocate for both the husband and wife treating each other with respect. It's not a one-way street. It's, yes, wives are supposed to respect their husbands, but the Bible also tells the husbands to love their wives. And part of loving your wife is, and honoring her as the weaker vessel. So a lot of people seem to forget that part. They like love the whole respect, part, but they forget about their part to love and honor the wife and treat her as the weaker vessel. So, and then another area we can exhibit self-control is how we speak of our husband to others. I also don't like it when wives put down their husbands constantly. They talk negatively about all his faults. The truth of the matter is you and your husband both know each other, and every single one of your faults. He knows all of yours, all of his. You can't live with the person 24/7 and not see them at their weakest. So I sure wouldn't like my husband making horrible comments about me to other people. So there's no way I'm going to do that about him to other people. It's wrong. I don't like that. Even when it comes to family members, I don't talk down about my husband to other family members. As family relationships go, we've had our highs and our lows with our family relationships. But one thing that I've always stressed to my family is my loyalty and my love is to my husband. Yes, I love you guys, but my loyalty lies with my husband. And I don't want to hear you talking bad about him. I just don't want to hear it, and don't do it around me. So whether or not they do it, others, I don't know, and I don't care. But when it comes to being in front of me, I'm really picky about that. So Amber, I used to get, it was more like I had in my coffee. So I don't get really hangry. My husband gets hangry a lot with stuff, but we're kind of opposite that. I can deal with hunger. The only thing that I have a problem with is if I have a headache. I have a hard time. It takes a lot of self-control, and not, if I have a headache, it's hard for me to function. So that is where I really have to think about it, about my responses. And yeah, and that's exactly true, Sarah. That's why, because even if you guys you're going to work through it, you're going to get through that fight. You're going to go on, but your mom is still going to remember how badly your husband treated you during those days. And, you have the capacity to forgive him and love him, but your mom isn't married to him. Your mom isn't the one with him. So she's going to have a much harder time, since he hurt her baby girl. He's going to have a much harder time. She's going to have a much harder time forgetting and forgiving than you are. So it's just better not to air out your dirty laundry to your family. Don't even bring it up. So Okay, so how can we have self-control with our kids? And if you guys have any other, suggestions, leave them in the chat. Sarah already she gave a couple good ones. Just leave them in the chat what you do. How do you interact with different things when you're hurt or when offenses come? But then our kids, how can we have self-control when it comes to our kids? I think this is the number one biggest indicator of a lack of self-control with moms. Our kids, like no other, drive us to the edge. They teach us patience. They teach us long suffering. They teach us how to deal with sassiness and moods when we just don't feel like it. I've said often, I used to think I was a super patient person, and then I had kids. And I used to think I didn't have anger issues, and then I had kids. And then I used to think I had the most self-control in the world, and then I had kids. So kids really, really teach you if you have self-control or if you don't have self-control. So when it comes to our kids, have boundaries that you will not cross. Okay. This is not acceptable. I will never do this. I will not do this. I will not spank in anger. I will not, just have boundaries. You want to treat your kids. You don't want someone grabbing you roughly, and shaking you. Don't ever do that to your kids. So there's certain boundaries that you have to have that you will not cross. One of the big ones that I've learned through the years is don't discipline when angry. If you are angry, separate yourself from the situation if needed. I have taken my kids and set them in their rooms on their beds and closed the door and got into my room and waited a few minutes. Most of the time with my Kelly, she's one of my most strong-willed children. A lot of times with my older kids, they would kind of just cry for a few minutes and then they'd sit there and just wait until I came to get them. Kelly will scream bloody murder the entire time because that's how she is. She's very strong-willed. But I needed time. I have to separate myself from that situation because you are the adult. You have to show them how you are in control of their emotions when they are not in control of theirs. And they have not learned that yet. They have not learned how to self-regulate their emotions. A lot of times around 3, it starts to click, and it has with Kelly. There are also a couple little exercises I do with her now when she gets really upset to just kind of make her calm down. And they are looking at you for your cues. So if you are flying off the handle and yelling and screaming and just disciplining them out of anger, that's going to be how they're going to learn to deal with things. So you have to learn, you are the adult, you're the one in charge, you are the one that sets the example for how to deal with those types of situations. So, sorry, I'm just reading the chat. Yeah, because I said so. As they get older, that won't work because they're going to want to know why. And you need to have answers, when they're younger, because I said so works. Like, don't cross the street without me. Why? Because I said so. But as they get older, you can explain because a car is going to come and you are going to get hit and you are going to die. So, as Hannah's age, she's not going to understand that. So, when you feel like yelling, this is one thing I have done too. When you feel like yelling, actually talk quiet. Force yourself. When you feel that yell bubbling up in you, it's just okay. You have to forcibly tell yourself you are going to talk very quiet. And that has worked for me to just kind of rein in the emotion, rein in the screaming. Obviously, I'm not perfect at this. I think every mom has yelled a time or two. And sometimes it's necessary if they are about to be in danger's way and you need to get their attention really quickly, obviously, and it's loud, you have to do yelling like that. But I'm talking about chronic yelling all the time, 100% of the day. I'm not a big advocate of that. So, and then be mindful of when you will be hormonal. There will be different times of the month where you're going to be on edge a little more, and you're really going to have to be self-aware. Okay. I'm not going to let them push my buttons. I am the adult. I need to exhibit for them what true self-control is. Discipline them when needed, but they need to see how you react to different situations, because it's when you're under the heat, it's when you're in the fire that your, character comes out and your self-control is exhibited for everyone to see. So that's when it really counts. So how can we have self-control when it comes to our bodies? Now, this is something that is often overlooked in Christian circles, especially Baptists, because as Baptists, we preach against everything, right? You're not supposed to drink alcohol. You're not supposed to smoke. You're not supposed to do drugs. You're not supposed to do all these things. And so I feel like for Christians, well, let's eat, and it's even for us, for our church, we eat here every Sunday afternoon. We always have good food, good desserts, throughout the week. I mean, just even this week alone that I haven't been eating food, I am shocked at all the times I've had to turn down food, Cracker Barrel friends, the Italian place we went to on the soul winning activity, and then all day Sunday with all the good food around here. I mean, it's almost every day there's food. So as Americans, we are so blessed. We have so much food and so readily available. But the thing is, if you don't learn self-control in this area, it will cause so many health problems down the road. It will cause obesity, type 2 diabetes. It'll cause a fatty liver. It'll cause arthritis in the knees, and it'll be really hard to move and be active with your kids and run after them. And there's so many different areas that this can affect you. So it does need to be talked about, because I do think that in America 2020, the obesity is through the roof. And as Christians, we need to be an example in this area. So I know one thing my husband and I have always tried to do is just keep active. I don't want my kids sitting around for 6 hours a day playing video games. So limit their time with the video games, make sure they get outside and run around. We have a trampoline. We have a huge yard, three acres. So they're able to ride their bikes in the long driveway, able to roller skate, just run around, get them outside for some vitamin D. Definitely promote that. And you yourself keep active. I personally try to exercise 3 times a week, which is walking over. I walk for an hour. At least 3 times a week is when I try to squeeze it in, if not more. I do fast. I have done a 24-hour day fast. I'm going to move that up to weekly now, I believe. I'm going to start fasting from Sunday night until Tuesday morning every week. And then I'm also going to do intermittent fasting, where I fast until noon. And what fasting does is it gets rid of old proteins in your bodies. It just cleans out so much when you fast. And obviously it's a good method because Jesus used it. So it's one of the oldest methods for losing weight. It's free. It's easy. You can do it anytime. You don't need gimmicks or special food or any of that. And it's just really good to deny your flesh. I'm a big proponent in denying your flesh, because once again, this flesh works into everything. It works into our marriage, denying our flesh, denying fleshly lusts when it comes to looking at other people outside of our marriage, denying with our kids, denying our anger. Our flesh wants to give in, and we want to lash out. Well, we're denying ourselves when we don't. And then our bodies, it's good to tell our bodies no. It's good to bring our bodies in subjection, not let our flesh control us. So I know it's not one thing that's often talked about, but I do think as Christians, we need to do what we can. Now, that's going to look different for everyone. If you're pregnant or nursing, please don't fast. That's not good. I do recommend still exercising though, and that could be walking out in the sun for an hour a day. That's a huge help when you are pregnant. When I had gestational diabetes with my last 2, I was able to control it through diet and exercise, and I was amazed. I mean, I could eat 2 slices of pizza, and then as long as I walked for 45 minutes, my sugars were fine, which showed me that there's so much not talked about when it comes to walking and things. So it is so healthy for you guys to do that. No, I am not nursing or pregnant at this time. I would not try a 10-day fast from food if I was. you need to definitely take that in consideration. And I know the majority of the people that watch my videos are pregnant or nursing, so please don't fast when you're doing that. Yeah, exactly. I don't even know what is XX or XY. I have no idea what you're talking about. Sorry, I'm missing a lot of the chat. Let's see. That's funny. Okay. So, and then exercise and then sleep. You can go on either side of this. You can have too little sleep because you're not showing self-control at midnight when you're still up browsing your phone, or you can have self-control when it comes, a lack of self-control when it comes to getting too much sleep. There's lots of verses that talk about, being sluggard, being lazy. You don't want to go to where you're like, I have to have 9 or 10 hours of sleep, and then the kids are up and the house is a wreck. Obviously there can be self-control of both things. So for me, the magic time is kind of between 7 and 8 hours. And I try to get that every night, which means going to bed between 10 and 11. And I usually get up around 6:30, 7, somewhere in between there. Is when I get up. That's going to change or look different too if you have babies that you're nursing, and so on and so forth. So obviously, that only comes. But when you're pregnant, you can still show self-control when it comes to the foods you eat. You're nourishing a life, so you want to eat the most healthy options available. Our American diets are so full of sugar and starches and carbs. You need to eat good, healthy food, such as, smoothies with spinach in them, lots of good spinach, meats, vegetables, fruit, and then try to keep your carbs on the lower side. And, have the occasional treat every now and then. I don't think that we need to just become a food Nazi and think that we're going to throw out all sugar is bad, all treats are bad. No, you can have the occasional treat, and there are healthy options too that you can even do with that. So thanks, Felicia. I am good. How is your day? My day is going great. Thank you. So yes, Amber, it does affect your milk supply. So please don't do this if you're nursing. Oh man, yeah, that stinks, Leah. Okay, so then let's go to self-control when it comes to our time. Okay, so social media can obviously suck up a lot of our time. And with this one, I would have goals that you meet before even going on social media, or have a time limit. Okay, so let's say that you drink your coffee every morning during social media. That's fine. So, that's the first thing you do. That's fine. Maybe you're a evening Bible reading person, just try to fit it in there. Sometimes some women like to read their Bible first before even going onto their phone. I did that for a long time. I think that's a great thing to do. But I always, now that I've gone off coffee though, I don't know what I'm going to do. I still drink warm tea in the morning though, like peppermint tea or something. So I kind of like that time just to kind of get ready for the day mentally. And so what I'll do is I'll spend that little bit of time, and then, you just put the phone up, even turn your notifications off, put it on airplane mode, something so it won't distract you is constantly going off. Obviously, when I teach, you can't be on that at all when you're teaching piano lessons or something like that. But even during homeschooling, take it seriously. You're teaching your kids. So I would put it out, put it in airplane mode, keep it on if your husband needs to get a hold of you, but turn your notifications off for Facebook, turn them off for Instagram, turn all social media notifications, just go ahead and turn off. You don't need them on anyways. They'll still be there when you go check it in 6 hours or whatever. And then when you get through your day, then you can go on social media again, have downtime. It's always nice to have a chill time, and it's totally acceptable if you've had a long day full of work and getting stuff done, where you can then just relax. So there's nothing wrong with it. It's just when you spend all day constantly on it, constantly checking it, you have to have self-control when it comes to that. How about self-control when it comes to your words on social media? This is a big one. I think social media often shows what's in your heart. And a lot of people just spill out and spill out and spill out of the abundance of the heart, right? So be careful about airing out dirty laundry on social media, especially with your husband, because people won't forget that. They won't forget it. And it can ruin your testimony. It can ruin your example. We have a generation coming up that is looking to us. They're looking to us in this day of social media. I'm not saying to be fake, but I'm also not saying that you need to go on there and air out every problem and be so public that, well, I'm not fake and I'm not a phony. Well, the whole world doesn't need to know about the things going on, between you and your husband that you're probably going to fix and move on. But like I said, screenshots live forever, and someone will always remember, that you had that nasty drag out fight with your husband on social media. So be really, really careful about that. Okay, so just don't get involved in fights that aren't yours on social media. There's so many times I just keep scrolling. Like, oh, that's an interesting fight. You read all the comments and then you're like, I better just stay out of it. And the Bible is very clear when it talks about this, about, he that, I'm not going to say it right, but basically likening someone that gets involved in strife as taking a dog by the ears. And anyone that knows taking a dog by the ears is not going to end well, and neither will getting involved in strife that doesn't belong to you. If it doesn't involve you, you aren't being mentioned, your husband's not being mentioned, your kids aren't being mentioned, just let it go. Sometimes there have been, you don't know how many fights I've seen going on where they have mentioned me or my family, and I just keep scrolling. It's not worth it. Most people already have their mind made up about you, so it's not worth it trying to change your mind. Be someone who leaves someone encouraged, not someone who causes turmoil in others. I'm reading it's a secular book, but it actually has a lot of good life principles in it. And it's about how to, basically be a good influence to people. And it talks in there about how you want to, every interaction that you have with someone, you want to leave them with a good feeling rather than a, just a bad feeling. And I've interacted with a lot with people. My red flags are going up. My intuition is telling me something's off. And if I just am constantly drained, constantly anxious after talking to someone that I'm interacting with in my life, I know that's a big red flag. So you want to be the type of person that exhibits self-control in the way you speak to others. Are you encouraging or are you discouraging? Are you a drain or are you a life force? Are you an energetic person or do you drain the energy from them? There's all these different things that you can kind of watch with yourself. So those are kind of some things, we all have to have self-control when it comes to social media. But the thing that I try to remember is that everything, pretty much anything on social media is public, and screenshots live forever. And, it's social media is just a glimpse. It's a glimpse into someone's life, the part that they want you to see. Obviously, people aren't going to be posting the nitty gritty things. So social media in and of itself is just, while all of it might not be fake, it is a fake reality because it's only maybe the good parts of someone's life or the dramatic parts of someone's life, or it's just little tiny snapshots. It's not the whole picture. So a lot of people think that they know me, but it's really, you get to know someone through one-on-one interaction, through talks one-on-one, through coming to my church, through texting with me privately, through those are the type of interactions where you really get to know someone. So just be careful and show self-control when it comes to, I've learned a lot over the last few years. I've learned how to handle trolls. I've learned how to handle people who are trying to talk to you just to hurt you, or just to expose you, or when, there's nothing there to expose. I don't have some deep, dark past life or something. I don't know what they're trying to do, but I've learned a lot over the last few years. So with social media, it can be a tool, but it can also be a weapon used against you if you don't exhibit self-control, so just be careful with that. how do we exhibit self-control when it comes to our priorities? For me, my number one priority is my home. And that includes everything that goes on in my home. That includes raising my children. That includes homeschooling. That is number one priority. So I'm going to not be doing a lot of things that will, I show self-control when I start weeding out the things that are taking away from my home, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Number three, I would do my home schooling, different things like that, teaching, piano lessons, all that. And then number three would be my church. This is a huge priority for us. So when it comes to church, I don't know if you can really say this self-control thing, but even with my boys, anytime with my husband, the entire time we've been married, anytime he's applied for a job, he's just upfront told him, I cannot do Sundays and I cannot do Wednesday nights. So they know that. My boys have followed the same principle, and they've never had to work a job where they had to work Sundays or, Wednesdays, which has worked really well for them. But just when it comes to church, there's a lot of self-control that you can exhibit even in the church. And this comes with relationships, obviously. There's going to be times when you come to church and you don't feel like being there. Maybe you had a bad day with the kids and everything just seemed to go wrong. So you're going to have to come with the mindset that you don't need to pass on your bad energy, your bad mood to everyone else, but you're going to come and just sit and be quiet and observe and listen. And then usually by the end of the day, I find I feel so much better, just from being around God's people and being around the music and being around the preaching. When it comes to relationships in the church, people are going to hurt you. People are going to say things that you don't like, but you just have to learn to put up with it, I guess. Learn to forgive, learn to ask forgiveness if you've done something that you feel, might have hurt someone. Just learn to be not offendable. So those are all areas. Going to church and being around people you do have to exhibit self-control and long-suffering and compassion, and which is why I think it's so important, because there's so many Christians that they think they can get the whole package through preaching online or even listening to me. Please don't. Go to church. Listen to your pastor's wife. She has a lot of good advice. So I have said before that I did a post about it yesterday, because I would rather listen to a good, godly woman that's been in church her whole life. She's lived biblical submission to her husband. She's raised kids who love the Lord and are still serving him. And she's done all those things. She's lived it, and she's now teaching it to the younger women. I would rather get advice from her than from someone who was in a miserable marriage almost their whole life. They weren't a stay-at-home mom. They had a nanny raising their kids. And then they read a book, Created to Be His Helpmeet, and decided that this was the way to do it. So from then on, anyone that didn't do it this way was bad, and everyone better do it this way or else. And I would rather listen to the First Lady. There's so many good Baptist preachers' wives who don't have a platform, who don't have a YouTube channel. And the only way that you're going to, hear good, godly advice from them is by getting plugged into church and becoming close to them, picking their brain about things. What did you do when your kid would do this? What did you do when your kid would do this? All of their 5, 6, 7, 8 kids are raised and in church still, or serving the Lord on the mission field, or whatever it is, just being a lay person in the church. They've been through it, and I'm sure they have advice for you. So there's so many other good, godly ladies besides the famous ones on different various platforms that actually have lived it and have done it the right way. So get advice from them for sure. Let's see. So yeah, our relationships, and this comes down to, obviously we need self-control in every area, but in our relationships too, how can we have self-control when it comes to this? I think it's good rule to be honest with your friendships, but not condemning, if that makes sense. There's some women that just have a very condescending attitude, very condemning attitude, and you never want to give off that feeling with other women or make them feel that way, because we all have our own story. We all have bad days. We all have different things we're going to. So, if you're mad or upset, take a minute to think about what you will say. Even when it comes to friendships, you don't have to respond right away. You don't have to text back right away. You don't even have to respond right away when things happen in church. You can kind of walk away, and then if it needs to be addressed, address it. If not, just let it roll off your back. Try not to be easily offendable. Forgive as you want to be forgiven. You're not perfect. You're going to mess up. You're going to say things that you regret. And so forgive other people the way that you want to be forgiven when that happens. And then the tongue. I think this all ties into the tongue. It takes so much self-control to rule the tongue. So much. And many extroverted people can have more self-control than an introverted person, because I'm not talking about the excess of words that come out of your mouth. I'm talking about what you do with your words. An introverted person can be very harsh when speaking to others with just a few words. An extroverted person may talk a lot, but they use their words for kindness and building women up rather than tearing down. So it's not dependent on personality. It's dependent on how you use the words that come out of your mouth. So, but how can we teach our kids self-control? I think this is very important. I think this is lacking in this generation, and it is why we see obesity rising among children. It is why we see a generation of spoiled children who have never been through anything yet. If you look at Gen Zers, they need therapy for everything. They're on medication, even though they've been given everything in their life because they haven't been taught different areas of self-control. So some things we've done with our kids is, don't give them everything they want. They might need to miss a function or a fun thing that they want to do, but it conflicts, with your schedule or something. Don't give them everything they want. The house doesn't revolve around that one child. I like to tell my kids a lot, I know this doesn't seem like a big deal to you, but we are a family unit, and this is going to affect our family unit. And so if this is going to affect our family unit, then you can't do it. They need to learn that disappointment is a part of life. And, my mom told me that a lot growing up. One of her favorite sayings was, life's not fair. And it's true. So I grew up with that mindset. And, I experienced disappointment to some varying degrees and loss when I was growing up, but nothing really, I guess, gets you ready for life except for life itself. And I probably learned more in the last 10 years about just relationships and, just different things than I have in the first 20 or 30 years, probably since, my husband became a pastor. I think it's taught me the most when it comes to people and relationships and things like that. And so they need to learn that disappointment is a part of life. Require them to do physical work, require them to do chores, require them to do tasks. Chores is not a dirty word. My husband was a huge proponent of this with my boys. I mean, he had them mowing the lawn from the time that they wouldn't set, they had to get to a certain weight on the rider mower. Otherwise it would stop because they weren't heavy enough. So from the time that they could, he had them push mowing, he had them mowing the lawn, he had them picking up sticks. Hannah can pick up sticks. Come here, Hannah, could pick up the sticks. The toys in the nursery, come put away the toys. Teach them to do tasks from the time that they're little. As they get older, you'll find that they pretty much do a great job of running the home. With my older two girls, I have full confidence that at this point in their life, they could run a home if needed. So it's nice because as they get older and teenagers, if you've done a good job teaching them to work, if you've done them, a good job teaching them these different things, you will be able to go away overnight and not have to worry about things falling apart or the house falling apart or it being chaos because you've taught them these different areas. You can't be on your phone all day. You have to make a meal, or you have to clean a room, or you have to get your school done, so different areas, teaching them self-control. Limit their eating and snacking. Have healthy snacks available. If your kids like to snack, Now, I know this is an interesting way of life, and I'm going to look into it, but I know the French have a way of living where they don't snack. They just eat meals. And I know they're probably appalled at the Americans that just, we don't give our body or our digestive system a time to rest between food. We're just constantly consuming. So for 10, 11 hours a day, every hour we're putting something in our mouth. Well, I'm hungry, I need a snack. Now I need a meal. Now I need another snack. Now I need a dessert. And so you are the one that sets the example in this area for your kids when it comes to food and the relationship with food. And I try to tell my girls all the time, I don't make it about the way they look. I don't make it about how skinny they are or what the scale says. It's about being healthy. And I want them to live long, healthy lives. So I want them to eat healthy, and I want them to be a healthy weight because of that, because it will enable them to do more, play with their kids, do whatever. So, and then boys need to learn how to work. Really, and I kind of touched on that, but they really need to learn how to work. Dad is going to be a big instrument in this. I've often noticed that the difference between kids turning out and wanting to live for the Lord versus rebelling and walking away often falls on the dad. What was the dad like in the home? So as moms, we can only do so much. If your husband is lacking in any of these areas, start praying. Start praying that God would work on his heart. Start praying that he would hear, good preaching that would enable him to be a better father. And when it comes to that, on the flip side, if you're praying for your husband to listen to good preaching and become a better father, if there's ever a sermon directed towards wives, take that and try to use it in your own life. If you want God to work on you or God to work on your husband, then you need to be open and receptive too when there is an area you need to work on. And then don't pander to their hunger or thirst, right away. Like, oh, I'm not talking about when they're, 1, 2, 3. I'm talking about as they get older, they can sit through a whole service and not need a drink. They can sit through an hour-long service and not need to go to the bathroom, and you can train them for that at home in little increments of time. Start with 10 minutes, start with then 20, then 30, then 40, so on and so forth. And that's a way to teach them to sit through church and to just be able to have self-control when it comes to controlling their hunger, controlling their thirst. At our church, we have snacks readily available. So I know that the kids have probably eaten before. They probably had a snack, so they can sit through an hour. It's not going to kill them. Teach them to control their mouths. I think this is the number one thing. One of my pet peeves, and my kids know this, I do not like sassing. That's kind of when I see red is when I see sassing, because I've learned through my life that if you can't control your mouth, you're going to have a hard time controlling any other aspect of your body. In fact, there's a verse in the Bible that talks about, if anyone can remember it, go ahead and leave it in the chat. It talks basically about if you've learned to bridle your tongue, then you're going to be able to bridle the whole body or something along those lines. So you learn to control your tongue, you're probably going to get control of your flesh in other areas. You learn to cut back that mean remark, or you learn to not yell, or you learn to not argue back when you feel like it or don't feel like it. So, and then the last thing is teach them self-control when it comes to relationships. Teach them how to get along with others. Teach them that the whole world doesn't revolve around them, but there's going to be people that make them mad, make them upset, but they have to learn to walk it off or deal with it. There's just such a lack of self-control when it comes to someone's feelings being hurt, and they just feel like the whole world needs to know, or, I'm going to get that person back, or I'm going to be vindictive, or, I'm going to take vengeance on that person. So there's just so much when it comes to that. So if you guys have any other tips or comments, go ahead and leave it in the chat. If someone could find that verse, that'd be great. But I think that's about it. That's about all I have for you today. If you guys have any suggestions or comments about shows you want to see, go ahead and leave them in. Like I said, I know I've talked about self-control before, but I kind of just came up with this because the last week I've been trying to just control my food intake. Not even control it. I just haven't had any food intake. So I think that's why it was on my brain. So I am thankful for all of you. I'm thankful for any new listeners that we have that are coming. If you are new, welcome. I noticed I don't ever start out by saying my name or anything. It's just Gently Led Sisters. So my name is Cassandra, and I'm a pastor's wife, and I have 8 kids, and I'm here in the trenches along with you. That's it. Isn't that a good verse? Yes, that's the one, Amber. So James 3:2 says, for in many things we offend all. That's true. If any man offend not in word, the same as a perfect man, and able also to bridle the whole body. So basically that's saying if you got your tongue under control, you're probably going to be able to control your whole body. And I really, really like that, because it's very indicative. If someone has no control over their mouth and they just spout off, they cause fights, they cause drama, they are just mean and nasty to everyone, they are just cruel, and you often notice that they're very lacking in other areas of their life. Maybe their eating is out of control. Maybe they have private sins that no one knows about, that they can't have self-control over. And I didn't even touch on that aspect of the whole. And I do think that self-control that comes with the whole internet, social media, just porn is very, very rising among men, but there are also women that have been involved in it. And so there just needs to be clear guidelines that you will have set in your life. I will never search this. I will never go on this site. I will never even, look into this. So that's another area of self-control. But yeah, I think that is such a great verse, because it's talking about if we're able to control our tongue, which I think all of this ties into, then we're probably going to be able to control our whole body too. So that's a great verse. So we will leave you with that one. Thanks, ladies, for joining on this very, very spontaneous live, but I really like interacting with you in the live chat. So I wanted to do this live. We'll be back to normally scheduled lives for the whole month of May, but June is going to be in Morgan. You barely ever get to watch, so it's nice having you today. June is going to be very weird, because the first week of June, I'm going to be at camp. And then the second and third week of June, I'm going to be in Ireland. So I might try to do a live with Fiona when I'm there, my friend Fiona in Ireland. Now, it will probably be a weird time, because they're 6 hours ahead of us. So 7 p.m. there would be like sometime in the morning. So we would have to do it in her afternoon. So it would be morning for you guys. But I might try to do that. I might try to work out a live with her when I'm there in Ireland. So yeah, it would be, Marta. It would be European friendly. So, all right, guys, but I'm glad you joined, and we will see you next week